Have you ever locked eyes with a robin and felt, for just a moment, like it knew something you didn't? Like it saw a truth beyond this world? What if I told you that tiny garden birds, the ones chirping outside your window right now, might be carrying ancient wisdom, untold stories, and even messages from the spirit realm? It's not just feathers and flapping. It's a secret spiritual life we've been too busy to notice, until now. In our busy lives, we often overlook the quiet beings that live right outside our windows. Garden birds. We notice their colors, maybe listen to their songs, and smile when they land near us. But rarely do we ask, what's really going on in their world? Is there more to a bird's chirp than just communication? Could these little creatures be more than just background music to our mornings? Across cultures, spiritual traditions, and even modern studies in ethology, birds have long been regarded as messengers, guides, and symbols of higher truths. Today, we'll explore the possibility that our neighborhood feathered friends, from the blackbird to the sparrow, are deeply connected to the unseen world in ways we're only beginning to understand. So make yourself comfortable, maybe even near a window if you can. Let's take a gentle journey into the secret spiritual lives of garden birds. Let's begin with a classic tale from Celtic folklore, the wren. Known as the king of birds, this tiny creature was believed to carry secrets of the gods in its song. In Ireland, the wren was honored as a symbol of divine wisdom, one whose fluttering presence hinted at messages from beyond. And here's the interesting part. Modern observers have noticed that wrens often appear during times of emotional transition, breakups, births, even death. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe they're more sensitive to our emotional energy than we think. In Japan, the nightingale, often heard but rarely seen, is a symbol of perseverance, purity, and the poetry of nature. Gardeners in Kyoto speak of the bird's evening song as a kind of spiritual cleansing, like the sound helps purify the soul at the close of day. There's something poetic about that, isn't there? As if the bird is offering closure to your thoughts, your worries, your spinning mind. Even in the scientific community, there are observations that border on the mystical. Take the phenomenon known as anting, where birds like robins or thrushes sit on anthills and allow ants to crawl all over them. No one fully understands why. Some say it's about parasite control, others suggest it's soothing. But many indigenous cultures have long believed this behavior is part of a bird's cleansing ritual, a form of spiritual hygiene, if you will. Could it be that birds perform rituals just as we do? Is anting their version of smudging with sage? There's also their sense of direction, uncanny, almost supernatural. Migratory birds like swallows can travel thousands of miles and return to the exact same bush or telephone wire year after year. How? Their sense of Earth's magnetic field is still not fully understood. Some researchers have even hypothesized that birds may be able to see magnetic fields. Imagine that. A reality layered over ours, completely invisible to us, but glowing with meaning to them. Maybe birds are literally tuned in to a spiritual frequency we can't detect. And then there's the way they respond to human presence. Many of us have had the experience of feeling emotionally low, only to be comforted by the sudden arrival of a bird. A blue tit hops closer than usual. A goldfinch lands on your windowsill. And it's not just comforting, it feels personal, as if the bird knows you're in need. Let me share a story that still gives people goosebumps. One that quietly speaks to the mysterious ways the natural world connects with our inner lives. A woman named Eleanor had recently lost her father, a kind and gentle soul who spent most of his life with binoculars around his neck, watching birds and marveling at their grace. His favorite bird? The robin. He always said they were little guardians of peace. One quiet morning, shortly after his passing, Eleanor sat alone in her garden, the weight of grief pressing down like thick fog. As she wiped her eyes, a small robin fluttered down and landed just a foot away from her. It didn't startle. It didn't flinch. It looked directly at her, still calm, and then began to sing. Not a hurried chirp, but a slow, sweet, melodic tune that felt oddly familiar. Eleanor whispered, "Dad?" And the bird stayed. It stayed as if it understood. Later, while going through old photo albums, she discovered a long-forgotten picture. Her father smiling, a baby robin perched on his finger. Coincidence? Maybe. But to Eleanor, it wasn't just a bird. It was a sign, a bridge between worlds, a message wrapped in feathers, something sacred. When we slow down enough to truly observe birds, their delicate patience, their precise timing, the way they seem to move, not with the clock, but with the rhythm of the earth itself, something remarkable begins to happen. We start to see that birds may not simply be observers of the spiritual world, but active participants in it. They live attuned to something we often forget, the present moment, charged with invisible meaning. There is a deep and ancient reverence in the way birds greet the morning. Long before human beings wake, they sing to the rising sun. It's a practice echoed across spiritual traditions. Monks in monasteries chanting at dawn, yogis meditating as the light breaks. Birds, too, seem to honor this threshold between dark and light. Perhaps their dawn chorus is more than survival or territory. Perhaps it's devotion, a kind of prayer in motion. And have you noticed their song isn't random? Birds sing at the edges of silence, the turning points of time, sunrise, sunset, after a storm. Their voices emerge in those in-between moments when something subtle shifts. That's when the soul listens most. In those spaces, birds become messengers. Between past and future, grief and healing, endings and beginnings. It's humbling, even awe-inspiring, to realize that the sparrow outside your window may be more spiritually aligned than we are, not because it tries to be, but because it simply is, completely present, unquestionably aware, whispering truths we've forgotten how to hear. So, what are we really left with after this journey? It's the realization that garden birds, those small, fluttering beings we often take for granted, are so much more than a charming part of the scenery. They are not just colorful distractions or delightful morning melodies. They are sacred presences, gentle guardians of the unseen, keepers of ancient rhythms we've long forgotten how to hear. Each time a robin sings at dawn or a wren flits quietly among the branches, something timeless stirs. Their movements, songs, and silences are not random. They are perfectly placed within a deeper, natural order. Garden birds don't just exist within nature. They express it. They embody it. Their rituals, the way they bathe in dust, sing before sunrise, or perch in stillness, reflect a wisdom more instinctive than intellectual, more soulful than strategic. These creatures remind us that spirituality doesn't always need words or grand ceremonies. Sometimes it's simply about presence, the ability to be fully here, to notice, to feel, to respond. Birds do this effortlessly, and perhaps through watching them, we can learn to do the same. So next time a bird crosses your path, slow down. Take it as a gentle nudge from the universe. Look into its eyes. Listen to its song. Watch the way it moves through space. There might not be a message in the way we expect, but in that quiet moment of connection, something sacred is already unfolding. Have you ever had a moment with a bird that felt spiritual? A sign? A message? I'd love to hear your stories, so please share them in the comments below. And if this video stirred something in you, you might enjoy our next one. Why butterflies visit you? Messages from the other side. Because when we slow down and pay attention, we begin to realize nature has always been speaking. We're just learning how to listen.